Welcome back to Casual Bias Rugby. We've got the Leinster boy. We've got Casual Bias Rugby. As most of you know, most of the Saffas hate Leinster, and most of the Irish people hate Casual Bias. So I mean, what a beautiful combination. Talking about some Champions Cup, talking about some Challenge Cup for the week that are still in that tournament. Leinster, how are you doing, my man?
Good. Myself, I have a team in the semi-final this tournament, unlike the other man here.
I mean, fair enough. Obviously,
Croke
we
Park,
got knocked out. I'm not too salty about it anymore, but obviously it was a tough pill to swallow going out against La Rochelle, double defending champions at the end. Probably bottled the game, but I mean there was a bit of caveats behind that as well. But we're not going to make excuses. We look forward to this weekend. Absolutely massive games. Starting off, who better to start off with than your team, Leinster? You're thinking, surely you do it. You're confident. Not even about just this, but the whole tournament to win it all.
Look, I'd back Leinster from the start to go do the double, win Champions Cup, win the RC, and now Croke Park, 83,000 seater stadium. Normally for the Gaelic games, they sold it out for a rugby match, 83,000 people, and it was gone in about, I don't know, it was 3 hours or something. No one could get tickets, so
Yeah.
I just think there's no more determination in any team except Leinster to actually go win this thing. Like, we're looking at the other teams here. We've got Toulouse, Harlequins, Northampton. Like, Toulouse are the only real European giant in there. Like, yeah, Northampton had their time about 15 years ago, but I just can't see past Leinster. I think it's our year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you win it, all credit goes to the South African coach, Jock Nienaber. You know that, right?
I know.
He knows how to win the big tournaments. As soon as you win this tournament, you'll be hearing it's just because of Jock Nienaber. That's the reason. But let's look at some of the games that you had leading up to this one. Obviously, you had Leicester Tigers battered them. Then you had La Rochelle. And I mean, you couldn't have asked for a more impressive performance than you put up against La Rochelle. Obviously, it's not the La Rochelle of a year ago, 2 years ago. The players haven't been on form necessarily, but it's still one of those teams that you could say it's like a voodoo team. Like, it was almost rugby heritage that they would beat you, and somehow you surpassed the voodoo and not just like scraped by. You absolutely dominated them. What was your thoughts going on during that game?
Leading up to the match, considering they've managed to pull off the win against Stormers, who were the better team for that full game, and I'm thinking it's not enough to win being the better team against these guys. Like, you have to be physical. You have to just play like your best game ever to beat them. And we did that, put 40 points on them. I was not expecting that. Going into the game, I was thinking 2015 kind of scoreline, and then when we put 40 points on them. So I don't know, like, as a Leinster fan, they've caused us so much hurt over the last few years. Like, there was a semi.
Obviously,
that was on my birthday.
it would have been enough just to beat them, right? Just like taking over. But I think it was almost you had to put 40 points on them just to get like that confidence thing. Because when you see a team kind of in the state that they were in that point of time, you needed to put up a dominant performance. Otherwise, people would have probably doubted you going into this game because they know La Rochelle wasn't the best that they necessarily could be. So this is a massive confidence booster for you guys. And obviously, you just came back from a South African tour. Not going to look into that too deep. Like, obviously, a lot of people would banter you and stuff, but we're not going to beat around the bush. We'll show respect to Leinster because it is a C team. I'm pretty sure some of those players that played against the Stormers, you wouldn't even know that ran onto the field. Obviously your boys are rested for this game against Saints. Saints on phenomenal form, top of the Premiership. Do you have any form or any sort of doubts around this game, or do you think this is a easy victory for you guys, or a foregone conclusion going into the final and probably going up against Toulouse?
I'm actually more worried about this game because, one, in Croke Park, there is a big history about the English in it and stuff they did there. I'm not going to go into it, obviously, but we can't lose to an English team there ever, just because of our history. So I think that'll definitely be in the players' minds there, knowing they can't lose this game. More pressure, and then it's Northampton. We don't really know them. We haven't played them in their current amazing state yet, and so anything could happen. They could win, they could lose. We saw what they did to, just looking at the draw here. Like, obviously, hammered the Bulls. Now wasn't a full team. beat Munster twice in a season. Like Munster, I know they're not good at the moment, but like they're European giants. Go to Thomond especially, get a win, which they did, is amazing. And now having 80,000 people there will definitely help Leinster. But I'm just thinking what the mindset is in the club at the moment, especially having just got hammered down South Africa like that. I'm
Yeah,
really wondering
I don't think
how
it
much
will
effect that
affect
will
you
have.
guys too much. I don't think you had the biggest expectations going down to South Africa. Obviously, playing any South African team at home, it's tough. Obviously, playing the Stormers at Cape Town Stadium, it's a tough ask. The same with if you had to play the Bulls at Loftus. Like, you don't easily beat our teams at home, and the Lions are up there as well. Obviously, it's at altitude as well. So I don't think this will play too much of a role in terms of the mindset of the boys, because obviously the guys playing this weekend, they didn't have any role in the demolishment that you've got down under. They were just purely focused from the start on the
Yeah.
Saints game. The boys that came down under, they were just like probably given the license and said, go out, have some fun, see if you can pull off something. Obviously, it didn't turn out that well, but I don't think that plays too much of a role. But an interesting thing that you brought up is the 84,000 that you got in there, because I know on TikTok you have mentioned before that sometimes the Viva sounds a bit quiet, or the atmosphere isn't the best. I think this atmosphere will be absolutely electric, seeing that you guys don't play a lot at
Yeah.
Croke Park. Is this the first time that Leinster plays at Croke Park?
2009 was the last time.
Exactly.
Munster Heineken Cup semi-final, so been a long time.
Yeah, so the boys will
Like,
be up and running for that game. The fans will be really up for it. I think Saints might fancy their chances if it was just like a head-to-head battle at a neutral ground. But I think just that amount of atmosphere that you guys can generate in that stadium will absolutely benefit the shit out of you.
mm. I'm just thinking now. I was thinking earlier, like how impressive this going to be this campaign if we do go and win the tournament.
Yeah.
First game was La Rochelle, beat them away, the team that been our bogey team. Then went and topped the pool of death in the second seed in the tournament. Then went and beat La Rochelle in the knockout stages, absolutely hammered them at home. And now we're playing in Croke Park. Like if we can go win this tournament, I think best Champions Cup campaign of all time.
Yeah, that's exactly what I say about the
Yeah.
Springboks. Pool of death, and then we had the favorites. We had England, who's always a bogey team in the World Cup. They are deadly. We had the All Blacks. We had the home team, pool of death, everything. So we're in the same boat. I understand what you mean. I understand what you mean completely.
Mm,
But let's look at Saints. Obviously, we can't disrespect them and think it's just a walkover victory. Obviously, they beat Munster. They smashed the Bulls. Obviously, a bit of a caveat behind that, seeing that the Bulls didn't play their strongest team. But the Bulls didn't put out absolute nobodies that ran onto the
mm,
field. Like, they still had a kind of a B team. But the performance against Munster, as you just said, Munster, they are European giants. They know how to stay in the game. They gave Saints a game in that first half, and then Saints just ran riot in that second half, and then they smashed the Bulls. So obviously you can't be too confident necessarily going into this game. Do you see any way that Saints can pull it off against Leinster?
absolutely. Especially because we don't know them. That's why I'm a La Rochelle. Oh, this random French team. Like, oh, surely we'll beat them. And then they beat us 3 years in a row. But I am confident in this game. I think we can win, especially looking at the path we've had to this semi-final. Like we went for the pool of death, and then having to play the pool of death, same teams in the knockout stage, and we came through that. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Especially now, both teams don't have momentum, right? Because Leinster have got hammered South Africa, we know that, and Quins also beat Northampton last weekend there. So both teams are
Yeah.
struggling with momentum, and big
Yeah,
game
the
for
thing
both of
is
them.
just like I don't follow the Prem too much. I don't know if they
Yeah,
played their strongest team necessarily against Quins. I think Northampton they've been so far ahead of everyone in the Prem in terms of points that they also just like
yeah,
focus on this game. So I think they'll still be mentally ready. I can't see Leinster necessarily battering them. I think
no,
the Saints boys, they are on form, but just the Leinster's just so clinical. If you looked at that game against La Rochelle, I just thought that it almost felt like, I know there's a bunch of Irish guys in it, but it just felt like an international performance that they put up, if you get
yeah,
what I mean. It's just stuck
yeah.
to basics, grafted it out, and really just demolished them at the end. So let's go into a little prediction. Try and keep it as unbiased as possible. Um, What do you got?
I'm going to go Leinster 32, Saints 25. Close one.
32-25.
32-25 to Leinster.
High scoring game. 7 points in it. I like that. I'm actually going to back your team a bit more than you backing them. I think it might be close. And then at the end, Leinster will run away with it. I think I can see it being like a 7-8 point game. And then Leinster maybe just like killing them off in the last 5 to 10 minutes by scoring a try or two
maybe.
to sort the victory out. So I'm going Leinster to get it done by 11 points. Also high scoring. I could see it being in that range of numbers, but I can't see Leinster conceding too many points, to be fair. Jock Nienaber, we know he's a defensive guru. So
credit to him.
That's one thing that South Africa's always done. We don't concede a lot of points. And I think he's really brought that into this Leinster squad. Okay.
Credit to him is just caught me wrong time there. Like credit to him, the amount he's done, you can see it in our attack and defense, just how much his defensive work's doing. It took a while at the start of the season. I was questioning him a lot because he said it would take 4 months to get to it, and then hit 4 months. Look what we did with Irish Shell. So
yeah, and the beautiful thing is like it's not that your attack dropped off when your defense picked up, because that's the thing that you see in a lot of teams. It's like they focus so much on defense, there's no attack, or they focus so much on attack, there's zero defense again. Where you guys have found like the perfect balance between a lot. Obviously, Nienaber has been there for years with Felix Jones, that's coaching England now. Obviously, he coached South Africa in the defensive line, so I'm pretty sure they implemented some of those tactics as well to help you out. But you can just see the way that Leinster plays. It's a team full of confidence, and I can't see any team really stopping them at this point. So, but let's move on to the second game, or the second semi-final this Sunday. We've got Toulouse versus Harlequins. When you hear that, what's your initial thoughts on it?
I just can't see anything other than Toulouse running away with it. I'm going to say like Toulouse, they're just going to hammer Harlequins. You know, I don't know what happened against Bordeaux. Like Bordeaux just fell apart. Didn't have their star winger Penno. But I just can't say anything else. I think Toulouse are going to win by 30 points even.
Yeah. The thing is, like, we predicted that, and I think you predicted it as well, that Bordeaux might run away with that game. But I think that was a game of literally zero defense. It felt like there was no defense on offer from
either
team.
Yeah,
if you have no defense against Toulouse, you'll get smacked.
Literally, yeah. They're just going to tear you apart. Especially now that they're clearly not releasing Dupont for the sevens. You know, they're keeping him for these games. And just having him there, the difference it makes. They just hammered, they hammered Racing, they hammered Exeter. They're going to hammer Harlequins.
Yeah, well, Toulouse can smell blood. Like, I think this will be an easy victory for them, and they will be preparing for that Leinster game. I think they really fancy their chances on this one. I think if that is the final between Leinster and Toulouse, that could be one of the biggest finals in European Cup, especially if you look at the form and the names that will be involved with both games. So let's just look at Toulouse's run up until now. Obviously, they played Racing, just a clinical performance. They didn't necessarily batter them all the way, but they kind of just smoked them. And then Exeter had a close game. I think Exeter might have been in the lead at halftime, or 2-3 points behind. And then they put up 50 points on Exeter 60. In the second half alone. 60 points in a single half. Surely that scares you a bit as a team like Harlequins. They don't focus too much on defense, on defense, that they can just flip it around like that, right?
100%. And even if Harlequins were to pull something out of the bag, they're not going to get past Toulouse, man. Be for real. Now, I am kind of worried about Toulouse more this year because if you don't know, last two semi-finals we played Toulouse, put 40 points on them. No one expected it each time. I don't know if we could do that again in the final. Like, completely different story there, but I don't know. I think Toulouse have a much easier path into this final than Northampton did.
Yeah, well, you could have just as well said the same thing, that you lost to La Rochelle twice in a row. Toulouse will probably be saying they lost to you twice in a row, and they can smell blood. They want revenge, that revenge story, because obviously most people would probably fancy Leinster to win it from here, because they've got rid of that voodoo. But now it's Toulouse that want to say, listen, we also want to get rid of that. And the only way that they get rid of it is by winning it, because that's when they match up against you. Surely Harlequins, they are shitting it, right?
100%. I don't even know what kind of team they're going to put out because you just don't go to Toulouse expect to win. Like even if Leinster, let's say now we're going to Toulouse, I wouldn't be expected to win. Completely different team in their stadium.
Yeah.
Like they're
I'm,
they're
I'm
the
wondering,
best club side in the world. I say it every season, even though we beat them. Oftentimes, like on paper, they're by far the best club in the world.
yeah, in terms of big names, yeah. Because if you look at the big names of Harlequins, you'd probably say the likes of a Dombrand, Mahler, what's it, Smith, Andre Estreisen, and Tyrone Green at the moment, and you compare it to the boys playing for Toulouse, and then you hear Antonio, you hear Dupont, you hear Tomo Ramos. What's it? I
And
just
Smack,
forgot a bunch of players, but you get exactly what I mean. Like
yeah,
you think these are crazy names playing for Harlequins, and then you just hear the matchup that they're going against, and it's like, how do you even match up against the likes of Toulouse? Let's go straight into the predictions. I'll go first this time. I've got Toulouse to win this game by an absolute dominant performance. I'm going to lose by 27 points.
I'm going to say Toulouse by 30, even 40. I just think
Yeah.
they're just gonna knock Harlequins out of this. Like
Yeah.
fair
I
play to
mean,
Harlequins. I mean, like they won their first European knockout game in the round 16, and now they're in the semi-final. So even if they don't win this game, it's a massive achievement for them. Great
well,
European
yeah,
season.
obviously they beat Glasgow in an absolute thriller of a game, but it wasn't necessarily the best game. Like it was a fun to watch game, but error prone. Obviously beat Bordeaux, upset of the century. It almost felt like with the way that Bordeaux
Yeah,
was playing. But then there's always the question of like, can a team that has like a massive upset like that do it twice in a row? Because that's always tough, right? So you see the upset of Italy, for instance, pulling one over Wales, but then they have to go up against England. Can they do it twice in a row? And then they get smashed the second time. We had it last week where the Ospreys beat the Stormers. First time ever, you think, okay, is this where they turn the page, where it's like, okay, Ospreys is a team to be reckoned with. 61 points put on them in the next game. That's just the thing. It's so tough for teams to cause two upset victories in a row. Like
yeah,
you could see it maybe in a Rugby World Cup with the likes of a Japan that's used to doing it. But you're not going to put it over a team that is European champions. They've won it the most times. They'll be ready for it. They've seen it. They've done it. So yeah, I can't see Toulouse losing this game whatsoever. You said you've been keeping up to date a bit with the Challenge Cup. You know some of the teams that have been playing in there.
yeah.
Okay,
So
so let's start off. I'll give you the floor. Obviously, you've got a South African team still in Europe. Can't believe this team is still there. But we've
yeah,
got the Sharks
first
going
European
up against.
semi-final, guys. Congrats.
Yeah, we've got the Sharks taking on Clermont. What's your first thoughts?
Saying Claremont. I don't know why. It's just like Claremont. They've never won the Champions Cup, but they've made a couple finals. They've beaten Leinster a couple of times. You know, they've beaten big teams, and they're not the strongest at the moment. But like Sharks, this is all Sharks have to play for. So I think Sharks could win it, but I'm just going to say Claremont. They hammered Ulster. I don't exactly remember who they played in the round 16, but they won that obviously. So I'm going to say Claremont win this one by 10. Don't know.
Yeah, I'm actually going to disagree with you, but not in terms of biasness. I'm not the biggest Shark supporter, but their form in the last month, 2 months, have really, really picked up. During the URC season, a couple of times I've said that performances have been there, but they haven't got the points. They haven't been clinical enough.
No.
They've not been kicking well at goal. But since they've dropped Kerwin Bosch and brought in that Masuku, who's the new number 10, they've really like turned a leaf. The performances have picked up. They've strung a couple of victories to get together. Obviously, beat Edinburgh twice, beat Ulster. I know Ulster isn't the best at the moment, but they've beaten a couple of proper teams. Obviously, they pulled it close against the Scarlets. But I think the biggest factor of this game is that it's not a home game for either one of the two, because this is what we spoke about in the previous time that we spoke, where the South African teams don't get home games. They can choose a stadium to play at, but they're playing at
Yeah.
the Stoop, playing at the Harlequin Stadium. I just think obviously Claremont nearly lost to the Cheetahs with a massive bottle job. I think the scoreline was 26-24. After the score, literally 15 minutes before that was 26-3. That's how much they almost bottled it. They let the Cheetahs in to get 3 tries, and then obviously Cheetahs knocked it at the end. So you're going Claremont by how much?
10. 5-10.
10. Oh, even with the full strength Sharks team. Eben Etzebeth, Oxenche, Vincent Koch. Remember, Vincent Koch has come in now. They've picked it up since they've got a couple of signings in.
I just know because realistically, like, there's not going to be any Sharks fans there. There's going to be a lot of Claremont fans. It's going to be more of a home game for Claremont, I feel like, than Sharks.
Yeah. Well,
it's literally a training anyway.
I just think like Claremont is such a physical team, but the one team you can't dominate physically against, and I don't think any franchise team in the world can dominate physically against the Sharks. They have got massive forwards. Like I just mentioned a couple of names. Those are big boys. You're not going to outscrum the Sharks. They've got the South African props. Obviously, Eben is still there. Massive boys in the loose trio. So I just can't see where Claremont really gets the dominance. And if the Sharks find a way to balance their physicality with the flair that they have in the backline, because they do have flair. If you look at the likes of Apelile Fassi there at the back, his running meters in the URC has been the most of any other player. I just think they can actually do it. I'm going with the Sharks to win it close, 4 points maybe, but I don't fully necessarily disagree with you with the Claremont take. I'll give you the floor again. Gloucester versus Benetton. What do you got? Gloucester.
Benetton. Definitely Benetton. You know, their season's been amazing, and they realistically aren't going to win the RC, but they can win this, you know. They could win this tournament, and I'm looking at their results now. So they hammered Connacht 39-24. The game before that, they let's see who they beat. They beat the Lions, South Africa. So it's not like they've had easy games leading up to this. And Gloucester, all due respect, not the best team. They're out of Premiership playoff contention at the moment, so they've got none to play for. Really, like they won this tournament, Gloucester, a couple of years ago, and it's not the most prestigious tournament. So if you've won it recently, you're not going to aim to win it again. But Benetton definitely want to get some titles under their belt, so I think Benetton.
But obviously, all these teams want to win it because that's a way into the Champions Cup, right? That is for an Italian team to get into the Champions Cup will be absolutely massive for them. Yeah. So the thing with Benetton, I wouldn't say they're up and down because they were very high up and then completely drop off the cliff and now picking back up. But obviously, I don't think the loss that they had this weekend was the best for their confidence going into this weekend. Obviously, they lost against Ulster. We just mentioned that Ulster isn't really the best at the moment. Like they've actually been a bit shite, in my opinion. They played a full-strength team. They had Menoncello, they had Rainer Smith, they had Brex. They had all these big names, but still couldn't get over the line against Ulster. And I don't think that necessarily gives them a massive confidence boost going into playing Gloucester, who's playing at home as well.
Who's at home? Gloucester.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Gloucester is a fairly big stadium, good fans. This would be the tighter game of the two, I think. There's like 2 or 3 points in it, I'd say. Okay.
So you get going Benetton with 3 points then?
Benetton, by like a drop goal or a penalty kick. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. I'll agree with you. Even though I said it wouldn't have done them a lot of confidence. I think they've been focusing a lot on the Challenge Cup. I think it would be massive for them, especially after. I think they've taken a bit of that momentum that Italy got in the Six Nations. They've taken into their team, pushing forward.
Yeah,
so
obviously,
I don't know too much about Gloucester in the end, but we'll wrap it up. Tell the people where they can find you on social media.
At the Leinster guy on TikTok. And I also Rugby Talk News TikTok page, Rugby Talk Podcast TikTok page. Run all 3 of them.
Yeah, of course. Leinster is the guy that also runs the page with all the clips where we have multiple creators on it. I'm pretty sure you'll get a couple of people and we'll talk more Challenge Cup and stuff, and we'll also load that full episode onto this channel. So stay tuned for that for a bit more than just the 2 of us. We appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you for your love and support, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah, cheers.